Welcome to Decision Point. Dr. William Serrata has taken the helm of El Paso Community College. How does he plan to transform what is perceived to be a culture of low achievement here in this region? With us today, Dr. William Serrata, President of El Paso Community College. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. And you came to us so you've only been with us for about a year, right?
Yeah, it'll be a year on the 1st of August, actually. It's a year today that I came into town last summer. I came from South Texas College, born and raised in Brownsville in the southern tip of Texas. Went off and did my undergraduate at Texas A&M in College Station.
Gig 'em, my son's an Aggie.
I'm a two-time Aggie.
Yeah,
I went back
right.
and did the doctorate in College Station as well. And I left Brownsville in about 94 and started in 96 and started working at that time South Texas Community College and stayed there for almost 16 years. The last 7.5 serving as Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management.
Right. Yeah. Why do you think you were hired for this job?
I think I have a passion for student success. I have a passion to embed myself within the community. This community is home. It felt like home immediately. My whole life I've been on the border, so this is a community I'm very familiar with, family-oriented, close-knit culture. The only difference is you have mountains and no humidity. We have it here in El Paso. We had the ocean and lots of humidity in South Texas, but the similarities of the institutions that I worked at in South Texas and here in El Paso are striking. Almost exactly the same enrollment, same number of campuses, same student demographics, and the kinds of programs that we were able to implement in South Texas, I think, made me attractive to the Board of Trustees. Yeah. And I'm very fortunate. I say that every day. I'm lucky to be here in El Paso. Yeah,
right. Well, we're really glad to have you and excited to have kind of a new pair of eyes looking at what we're doing here. So, one of the things that I started with the introduction of you is the fact that in fact, again, because I'm on the faculty of the community college.
We're happy to have you. Thank you for teaching writing for us.
Yeah, and then also is that there is kind of a culture of low achievement. I have children here in the schools as well, and it is really a battle that you fight against that students. You know, there's a pure culture of, you don't want to stand out, you don't want to, who do you think you are kind of thing. So how do you fight that culture in the job that you're
Sure, I think it's a wonderful question. I think the first thing that we do is it starts with parents, and I think that we have to have high expectations for our students. I think that no child will rise to low expectations. I think we do a disservice of setting low expectations. President Bush, I think, said it very well, the soft bigotry of low expectations. We have to have high expectations for our children, and they will rise to our expectation. I believe that begins in K through 12. It begins before that, but they become a captured audience once they reach kindergarten. We have to set the expectation that they will achieve, that high achievement is valued in this nation, and there's a direct correlation between educational attainment and a better quality of life, earning capacity.
Right, yeah. Now, recently, the community college went through an accreditation process, and we were put on quote-unquote warning.
Correct.
What does that mean? Why did that happen?
It happened for 3 different reasons. The Southern Association of Colleges and Schools looks at 93 areas of an institution to determine quality and reaffirm the institution. The original report, the written report, came back, the off-site report where a group meets in Atlanta and they look at all your responses to the question, came back with 12 recommendations. The on-site committee was here in October from all over the country outside of Texas. They looked at our responses to everything, including those 12, reduced it to 6 recommendations, and then it goes to the board for the Southern Association. That happened in June, and they came back and said, we need you to work on 3 more recommendations, 3 remaining recommendations. The college maintains its accreditation. Warning is if we do not address these, then there could be further sanction. And the further sanction could be another year of warning and a monitoring report, followed by 2 years of probation, and then after those 4-year process, then the Southern Association can take further sanction. The areas that the college has to focus on are 3. The ratio of full-time faculty. And I think that this is one of the areas that the Board of Trustees and the vision of the institution has struggled with, maintaining a very low tuition, maintaining a very low tax rate for our taxpayers. As we know, in tough economic times, we don't want to touch those areas. So in combination with expanding the institution, the growth of El Paso has been tremendous over the last 10 years or so. Fort Bliss has been wonderful for the city, and that has increased the population. The college's enrollment has also increased by about 53% over the last decade.
We have, what, 50,000?
We have 30,000 students in a fall semester. Annually, we serve over 50,000 students. That's correct.
Right, yeah, and that's a lot of students. We are probably the largest single educating entity in El Paso from the standpoint of higher ed, right?
And with regards to higher ed, we are the largest institution of higher ed in West Texas, and we're in the top 10 among the top largest community colleges in the state. We're probably ranked 8th or 9th in community college enrollment.
Right. So in terms of addressing those challenges, what are the plans to do that?
Sure, we had always, you hope for the best and you work hard to reach that, and you plan for those situations that don't go as well as you had. And so we had budgeted in the Board of Trustee budget presentations that have been provided to them throughout the process. We had budgeted for adding additional faculty, and it'll be a combination of tuition increases, and then we're looking at property taxes and a slight increase if needed in property taxes. And the Board of Trustees will review all of that information and make their decision to move forward. We need to add approximately 30 to 35 full-time faculty is what we're looking at based on the ratios that we're crunching as far as the programs and campuses that we offer academic coursework at.
So where are you trying to focus the various academic programs? I mean, obviously you have to work in conjunction with the needs of the communities in the future as well as now. So what areas are you targeting as the best areas to be trained in and add courses to?
Absolutely, wonderful question. What we do is we use the career clusters the Department of Labor provides. We also make sure that we meet regularly with the Chamber of Commerce. I serve on the board for the Chamber of Commerce as well as the Hispanic Chamber, as well as Workforce Solutions, so that we understand from business and industry what jobs are required, so that one of the critical missions of El Paso Community College is to provide a skilled workforce. And so there are those jobs that are needed. We need to make sure that we're training students, getting them certificate, or at technical associate degrees they need to go into those jobs, for instance nursing.
Right.
No one ever thinks of nursing as a technical field, and it is. It's an associate of applied arts and sciences, and so a technical field, and provide those for the medical needs in this community. In addition, we do have a part of the mission is to provide transfer education. We want our students not just to finish their associate degree, but to go on to UTEP or New Mexico State or any institution they choose to continue on their pathway towards the baccalaureate and beyond.
Now, which are the key areas, obviously medical, technology, and that kind of thing, but what are some of the other key areas that you see a lot of job growth need?
Sure, I think that there's a couple. You've hit exactly one of them. Nursing and allied health. The medical areas will continue to prosper and continue to grow. We're all aging, and as we age, there are medical issues that we have to deal with, and so that will continue to grow. We're also seeing some of the technology areas continue to expand. Green technology continues to expand. We're in an area where solar power is generated on a regular basis, and those fields will continue to grow. We also see the large population that is under the age of 30, and a huge population under the age of 18 in El Paso, and so education will continue to be part of the programs that are provided. Those education teacher preparation programs for the region as well.
So those are three of the growth areas, and then, but another big part of EPCC is also the I guess the certificate areas, is that right? Yeah.
Sure, lots of technical areas, and I think that that's the misconception. You know, by 2018, we're looking at 60% of all new jobs, 65% of all new jobs requiring some post-secondary training and education. That doesn't mean that everyone has to go through and get a PhD. There are certain certificate programs, technical associate degrees, that will provide a more than living wage for the population to go into. Diesel mechanics, you know, all of the different areas. Welding is an area, plumbing is an area that we still need skilled workforce to go forward, and those are certificate programs that you reference.
Yeah. One of the things that concerns me is, as I'm teaching, I teach both an education class and also an English comp class, and that is that we have a lot of first generation Hispanic students going through and getting their degrees. And I'm just wondering, you know, unemployment among college graduates is at an all-time high. So,
yeah, it's a great statistic. You're absolutely correct. The brand new college graduate is seeing an unemployment that is at a higher level than it's been in the past. But over the course of a career, there's no disputing that the more you learn, the more you earn. The data shows that, as well as the unemployment rates. The higher degree attainment level that you have, the lower the unemployment rate. Right now, across the nation, it's at about 6.8. If you have a professional degree or a doctorate, it's less than 3%. The baccalaureate, it's about 4%. Associate degree, it's about 4%. And so what we see is initially finding the first job is difficult, but once they find that job, they move forward. I teach English as well. I haven't taught in a long time.
That,
but
right, I knew we were simpatico. Yeah. So one of the things that you know, I tell my students is it's great to have that degree, but if you are, I also used to be a vice president of executive recruitment for a corporation. And so I recruited a lot of college graduates as well as MBAs. And one of the things we found was that students could not write very well.
Sure.
And here, the whole issue is also speaking English.
Sure.
And so we've condensed, you know, some of the programs and that kind of thing. But what I find is that whole being able to speak and write English is really the tiebreaker between somebody who has skills and somebody who is proficient in those things and has the skill.
I think it's a point well taken. It's an area living on the border. You are bicultural, and we need to ensure that our students have the ability to write and present themselves and speak appropriately in English. I think that's a big part of it. Being bilingual will definitely be a benefit, in particular in the areas that they're in, but they have to be proficient in both of the languages as you speak to. I'm a first-generation college student as well. My parents didn't have the opportunity, but their point was that you will go to college. Now, we didn't know what that meant. Right. And so part of the programs that I've tried to implement is help students understand what that means and help them be successful. Help the student that's struggling with writing in our tutoring centers. Help them go into the learning emporiums and receive the assistance they need to ensure that they can articulate a sentence correctly and grammatically correctly.
Right, yeah. Now, when you were in South Texas, you had a really great one-year kind of orientation program going, right? And what kind of things do you plan to introduce to EPCC?
Sure. I mean, part of it is we've been touching on it already. So I see some of the same things that you see. I see the lack of a college-going culture still, despite the fact that the institution has grown from 18 to 30,000 students. The data shows us that only 56% of recent high school graduates go to college. Not Paso Community College, not UTEP, any institution of higher education. And that really has to change, in particular when we see the data reflecting how many jobs will require some post-secondary education. That's part of it. I think that we have to do a better job at El Paso Community College of retaining our students. So if only half are going after they graduate from high school, and if we lose half after that first year, we're not serving the community. And so we have to work on our retention programs. And orientation is a key. We're exploring a mandatory orientation right now. We did have the first year connections program in South Texas. We could show that it had statistically significant impact on student success. And those are the kinds of programs we're looking at implementing. For creating the college-going culture, we will start our first elementary school adoption program this fall. We're working with Socorro Independent School District to adopt that at first elementary school so that those students will realize that college does begin at kindergarten. Right. And so I'm trying to help the college plan out to 2025. The kids that just finished kindergarten, they're going into first grade this fall. That's our freshman class in 2025. It's not that far away.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to get your mind around that. When you think about the community college and changing that culture, which is difficult to change, but it's certainly possible. How does El Paso stack up? You mentioned some statistics about 56% in terms of higher education. How does that compare to San Antonio or in Austin.
Sure, I think it's a great point. And what you'll see in Austin, there was just recently released data that shows the educational attainment level of certain regions of the state. And so Travis County has the second highest baccalaureate attainment level. And it makes sense with all of our legislators, with all of the corporations, state capital, et cetera, being housed out of that area. El Paso is not quite is in the mid-range. We're at about 38% in El Paso. We need to improve that, and so the college going rate is the key piece of beginning that. In South Texas, when we implemented these programs, what we saw is we started and we had a 12% increase over a period of 4 to 5 years of increasing the college going rate. Again,
that's relatively significant for a short period of time.
When you look at a county that has 800,000 people, and if you're able to improve it over 10 to 12% over a 4 to 5 year period, and again, my competition is not any other institution of higher education. My competition is procrastination and apathy. I need more students to go to college. If they go, we'll get our fair share at El Paso Community College. I just need more to go.
Right. I think one of the things that may contribute to the dropout rate, and I could be completely wrong about this because I come, from my own personal experience, but is a lot of the students qualify for grants.
Sure.
Right? What's the percentage?
Right now we have our freshman class entering this past fall 2012, 87% received some type of financial aid, primarily Title IV Pell Grant, correct?
Right, yeah. And what I've heard from students in their candid moments, because they complain about the fact that I require they come to class, and if they don't, they suffer.
I'm so glad that you require it.
Yeah, right.
Because all the data shows that if students show up to class, their likelihood for success rises exponentially.
Well, also just they're an investment in the process. They're learning, and if they're not getting the value, why would they stay with it?
Sure.
And so. One of the things that they say to me is that, well, I'm here on a grant because I don't have something else to do or I can't get a job, and my other teachers don't require me to come to class, or some of the other ones don't, and so I don't, why go? And so, of course, it has a cascading effect on, if you don't go to class, then why would you value the education? So. When we're looking at that whole financial aid issue, I know it's done, on a formula. Are we looking at what the students themselves are investing, or are we just trying to get as many students in the door as possible? I mean, how do you deal with that issue?
We have to balance the issue, and you're absolutely correct. What we have to look at is, again, setting the expectations early of understanding the value of education with elementary, middle school, and high school students. Once they understand the value of education, understanding that if they are fortunate enough to receive federal financial aid, there is a responsibility to receive that financial aid, including their job is to be successful in their courses. That becomes their job. And so when they receive that grant aid and they think, well, I received the grant aid, I don't have to be here. Well, if you don't go to your courses, if you don't do well in your courses, then you will owe that money back. And so that partnership is that they understand the value of education, have that long-term goal. All of the literature currently shows us that what we have to do is we have to get students on a pathway early. They have to have a declared major. They can't be undeclared. What do you want to do? What is your job going to be? And ultimately, even the artist has to pay the bills. And so I understand education for the sake of learning, but I tie it to what is that earning capacity going to be through employment. And therefore, we have to get our students to follow a pathway, declare a major, and they can change. I understand that things change. I changed majors 4 times.
Right, yeah.
But they have to be on a pathway to get the degree, and once they get the degree, that opens the door to get into an employment position, but then they have to show work ethic. They have to show the soft skills that you spoke to earlier.
Right, yeah. And so when you maybe part of the orientation process has to be building in that understanding in addition to getting them there. So what specific plans, what the community college has grown 250% in terms of the number of students over the last?
The college has grown about 53% over the last decade, from about 18,000 students to about 30,000 students in any given fall semester. The graduates, the completion, which is even more important, that has grown by over 250%.
Yeah, so that's the figure, right? Yeah.
Correct. So we've gone from about 1,400 degrees awarded to now almost 4,500 degrees awarded. We currently rank first amongst almost 1,200 community colleges in awarding associate degrees to Hispanic students. Right. Not in Texas, and I know that there's there in the nation. 16th overall. Out of almost 1,200 community college, we award the 16th most associate degrees, and yet the educational attainment level is still low in El Paso. 74% of our population has less than an associate degree. We have to work on that. Yeah. We have to work on that in order to increase the tax base, in order to keep taxes low. If we have more people paying into the system, then we can continue to keep taxes low across the board.
So what's your key strategy to try to impact that issue?
I think that there's a myriad of strategies, and I would say that what I'm trying to do with the help of everyone at the institution, it really is a collective vision, is we're trying to focus on 4 key areas. We're trying to focus on engagement. And what I mean by engagement, your students, as a faculty member, the most powerful connection a student can have is with a faculty member. Mm-hmm. If one of your students connects with you, their likelihood for success rises exponentially. Yeah, I connected with an English teacher. Mm-hmm. And I was struggling in my undergrad. And when I connected with Dr. David Myers, a professor of English at A&M, I changed my major to English and I got a degree in English. Yeah. So engagement is key. I understand that we have 30,000 students and we have about 400 full-time faculty. So we can't connect all of them to you, right. But we'll connect them to our office, we'll connect them to maintenance workers, we'll connect them to counselors, advisors, someone at the institution. We're focused on partnerships. We can't do it alone. And so our partnerships with K through 12 and our incredible partnership with UTEP are key to moving this forward as well. In addition, our partnerships with business and industry, with the community that we serve. Are we producing the graduates that they need and the skilled workforce that they need? We're going to focus on creating that college-going culture. And beginning with elementary school students. And because parental involvement specialists, when I was in South Texas, would tell me, in elementary school, all the parents participate. By middle school, it's about half. By high school, you're lucky if you get 15 to 20%. So if I start cultivating that college-going culture when they're in elementary school, I not only reach the children, I reach their parents as well. So it becomes an expectation. And then finally, going to college isn't good enough. If you don't graduate, you don't reap the benefits. And so completion will be a real key focus for us. So EPCC, engagement, partnerships, creating a college-going culture, and completion.
Now, what do you attribute to the rise in graduation rates? What has been done to make that happen? Sure,
there's been a real focus on raising the raw number of graduates. Now, graduation rate is still something that we have to focus on and continue to increase that. And Dr. Natalicio is the foremost expert on showing how it's a flawed measure, but it is still a measure that is used. So we will focus greatly on increasing our graduation rate as well as the raw number. But over the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a real shift in higher education, in particular community colleges, from just an access mission to an access and success mission. And we don't serve our students well if they don't graduate. We can't be a revolving door. And so we have to focus, and that focus has been here as well as it was in South Texas, that we have to increase the number of students that graduate, never sacrificing rigor or quality, but always raising expectations, providing the support that our students need to meet those expectations, and moving forward in that fashion.
Now, why is it so important to have an educated workforce?
Well, what we see is that the critical thinking skills are vastly important, and we live in a changing society. I mean, what we see now is you no longer hear about the job ladder, you hear about the job lattice, because so many things are changing that our students have to be adaptable. Technology is changing at such a rapid pace that students need to understand it and utilize it and facilitate it as part of their growth in their career. And that is part of why we need that educated workforce. At this point, companies will look at El Paso and they don't have to even visit us anymore. They go online, they see what the educational attainment level is of our region, and what used to be that companies used to say how many high school graduates are in the region. Now they say how many associate degree holders do they have. And if you're not meeting the benchmark, they don't take a second look at us. So we have to make sure that we continue to move this city forward, and we play a vital role in that.
And so that's also part of the overall economic prosperity and enriching El Paso, which we're talking about in this series, and you're one of the key individuals in that, is you and your leadership of EPCC is really about raising the floor of the entire region in terms of economic prosperity and blessing. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and these are the things that keep me up at night. These are the things that I am most concerned with. In December, a report was released that showed the largest concentrations of poverty in the nation, and we ranked third on that list. Almost a quarter of our population lives below the poverty level. The research and literature and data shows that the greatest disruptor to poverty is higher education. And so my role and my mission is to help ensure that El Paso Community College is meeting the educational needs of our region and providing the skilled workforce of our business and industry partners so that the quality of life continues to rise.
Yeah. Now, when you look at the plans for expansion and that kind of thing, what's in the works?
Well, right now it's a wonderful question, and thank you for that. We are in the planning stages of adding a sixth campus at Fort Bliss. You know that Fort Bliss has grown exponentially as well to over 30,000 soldiers, along with their family and dependents. You're looking at about 100,000 people that have impacted El Paso. We need to provide our men and women in uniform higher education opportunities as close as possible. We already teach classes. It's somewhat of a coming home. The college started, it was created in 1969, opened its doors in 1971 at Logan Heights. And so it's somewhat of a coming home. We continue to offer courses at Fort Bliss, but to actually have a full-fledged campus on the military installation of Fort Bliss, it's an exciting time. We're also looking at the opportunity of looking at all 6 of our campuses, the new one at Fort Bliss and the 5 existing, to see what kind of additions, what kind of renovations, what kind of programs we need to add to those as well.
So in terms of expansion and continued expansion, what limits expansion? Is it funding, or what's the chicken or the egg? If the students come, can they get in, and no matter how many came, or is it limited by the number of the
offerings?
Funding?
Sure,
the
sure.
funding, yeah.
I think it's a combination, and I think that we have to be as strategic as we possibly can with the limited resources that we have in order to ensure that we're providing the educational needs, meeting those needs here in El Paso. And so we continue to do analysis of the programs that students are in high demand to make sure that we have enough sections in those particular programs, we have enough full-time faculty, we have enough adjunct faculty, but also in programs that no longer are producing, that have fulfilled their mission. Then those programs we have to look at sunsetting with authority from Austin, from the coordinating board. And so it's a combination. We have to create that college-going culture, which means we have to serve more students, which is a good thing. Part of the way we can serve more students without increasing costs is dual credit. We have 6 early college high schools, and then we have about 3,000 students that are involved in dual credit. This is a win-win for the region. If the high school has a master level instructor like yourself teaching the course, then they can teach both the high school and college course at the same time. It is a college course. They use our syllabi. They're reviewed by our program coordinators. And the student, we are able to waive tuition. Student can then get ahead and get a college semester out of the way while they're still in high school, saving their parents, saving the taxpayer, saving everyone involved.
Yeah, I love dual credit. My teenagers have done that through EPCC.
That's great.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We're out of time. You've been very informative, and we hope that we can have you back and hear how things are going.
Thank you so much for all that you do at the college and for what we do the community as well.
Thank you, Dr. Serrata. So, do you think Dr. Serrata is taking the right approach for El Paso Community College? Are we going the right direction? Is this going to help to bless El Paso? Tell us what you think on Facebook, Twitter, or our website. Thank you for watching.